Rose DeLaura is one of these apparatchiks from a previous iteration of neo-Marxism. She's this old hag with the purple hair, sort of
I saw her online.
that,
Yeah.
that sort of has a sort of Wicked Witch of the West look.
Well, why do women? That's for children, and I don't even like it with children when they die. They wear pink, green, and gray or whatever. But adults doing it is strange.
How about octogenarians?
Okay.
Rose DeLaura, in a committee hearing, explaining that monetary and fiscal policy have nothing to do with inflation, the price you're paying at the grocery store, and it has everything to do with the greed of big food producers.
All right.
We need to put some shackles on their price increases and maybe on their CEOs.
So let me ask you this. Don't you believe that the federal government's time would be best spent on combating illegal practices that raise prices on healthy and nutritious foods for over 340 million Americans living in this country, as opposed to a pilot that would look to at SNAP purchases for a tiny fraction of the 42 million participants that this program services?
I don't know if I can really adequately address that question other than say it goes back to the research of providing good, healthy foods to people.
But do you, about food prices?
Yeah, I just, I can't, I really can't speak to how you control food prices. I don't know enough
There is
about
no
that.
shortage of food in the United States of America. That means the industry has the ability to raise or lower prices at will. And if, at the moment, their will is to truly it is price gouging. That what they do, that if you can lower the price one day and then you raise the price another day, that is within your control. It would just seem to me that one of the purposes that the federal government can play here is to go after those who are price gouging, deal with legislation that doesn't allow them to do that. But we spend our time, and look, the SNAP program is always an issue of controversy in this institution for some reason. But let's go to a fundamental thing. If we want people to buy fresh fruit and vegetables, etc., make it available for them. Make it available at the cost that they can afford. Not just the affluent, but the middle class, working families, and families that are vulnerable.
Yeah, how do you?
Oh,
I don't know
boy.
why we can't control food prices, and Rose DeLaura has a plan. She'll control food prices. The same thing is happening when it comes to energy. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Palahniuk Schumer joined 22 of his fellow neo-Marxists, sent a letter to the Justice Department accusing U.S. oil producers of colluding to keep prices high and inflate their profits, saying, quote, only the DOJ can prosecute and fully redress the alleged anti-competitive behavior in the oil sector. It's big food, and corporate greed, that's the reason your grocery prices are so high. And it's, of course, the evil bond villains that run oil companies and their greed. That's why the price is so high at the pump. Simple solution, prosecute CEOs and backdoor nationalize these sectors, letting people like Chuck Schumer and Rose DeLaura set prices.
Well,
Set prices you can afford.
I'm starting to think U.S. Congress has no clue how businesses operate.
I'm starting to think that.
Yeah.
Steve Moore is an economist. He's the author of Govzilla. He joins us now. Steve, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Good morning, guys. Good to be with you. And it's funny we're having this conversation because I just finished writing my weekly column on exactly this topic. That the kind of nerve of these Democrats saying, "Oh my gosh, you're trying to manipulate the market and you're driving up the price that people have to pay for gas at the pump," and the way they're doing that is by holding back the supply and colluding to do that. And I'm like, wait a minute, let's put our thinking caps on here. Who is the single person in the entire United States who has been most focused on reducing the supply of oil and gas? Amy, who do you think that might be?
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question, sir?
Right. Who is restricting the supply of our oil and gas?
Oh, Biden.
Of course, Biden. So
Yeah. No more drill, baby, drill.
Exactly. He's done everything he can to because he hates the oil and gas industry. He's the one who said, "I'm going to put you people out of business. You're not going to be able to sell anything." He's the one who wouldn't build the Keystone Pipeline. He's the one who won't build refineries. He's the one that just took 12 million acres of oil and gas areas and acreages off of line for drilling in Alaska, which is one of the most oil-rich areas in the world. And then he's blaming the energy companies for not producing enough oil. I mean, it's comical, folks. This guy he has a policy of net zero. He wants in 10 years the United States producing zero oil and gas. Gee, what do you think, Dan? If we go to close to zero oil and gas, what do you think the price is going to be of that?
Yeah, right. And what do you think we're going
$10,000 a barrel?
and what are we going to power this NVIDIA AI revolution with? Right?
Of course. I mean, the whole thing is so preposterous. If you want to, and you said it very well, Amy, if you want lower price of oil and gas, as we all do, if you want to go back to $2.50 a gallon gas like we had under Trump, drill, baby, drill. We could easily producing 3 million more barrels a day. In fact,
Right.
Casey Mulligan at the University of Chicago just did a big study on this. We should be producing 3 million more barrels a day. Biden's solution to the problem of high gas prices, you see this the other day, he said, we're going to take another 1 million barrels out of the strategic reserve. Well, he's already taken 150 million. But my point is, 1 million barrels, that's like what the oil companies all over the world produce every 2 hours. How is that going to lower the price?
Yeah, 1 million
Well,
barrels
and then
of
people
oil
don't
on the
realize
wall.
that gas prices affect grocery prices.
Of course they do. Oil prices and energy prices. In fact, the price of everything you buy is dictated by what energy costs, and that's why it's reverberated throughout the economy. It's absolutely why food prices are so high. And by the way, I'm so sick and tired of these Democrats saying, "Why are we having this hearing of investigating what's going on with?" And don't you love it? What did she call it? The SNAP program? It's food stamps.
Yeah,
food
food stamps,
What
right.
she's talking about. Food stamps. This is a welfare program, and it is a welfare program that has been raped and pillaged by fraudsters. Tens of billions of dollars, folks, have been stolen from that program. People getting food stamps. I mean, you have literally stories of people driving up to the grocery store in a Porsche and paying for their groceries with food stamps.
Mm-hmm.
You think they're eligible?
Speaking of Casey Mulligan, and since that sad little man, Tony Fauci, was before a House committee this week, I wanted to go back to the report that your committee to Unleash Prosperity did. Casey Mulligan and Dr. Scott Atlas and our friend Phil Kerpen.
Steve Henke. Yeah.
Steve Henke. The lessons learned from COVID report,
Yep.
and since this was, they were spewing the propaganda again about hundreds of thousands of lives saved and the
right.
unvaccinated cost hundreds of thousands of lives. What were the on the life and death axis? What did you find with respect to the policies pursued that was memorialized by these economists and Dr. Atlas in that report?
So I'm going to be very charitable here and take the upper bound estimate. So the upper bound estimate is that the COVID lockdowns may have saved, and again, this is the highest possible number, would be about 30,000 lives saved. No, that's not nothing. That's a lot of lives, 30,000. But we also estimate that from the excess deaths that happened over those 2 years, 2020 and 2021, there were 300,000 excess deaths. Now, what were those deaths? Those were deaths of despair. Those were deaths of drug abuse, drug overdoses, alcoholism, the fact that hundreds of thousands of people died because they could not go to hospitals because the hospitals were shut down thanks to Anthony Fauci. So if you're in stage 3 cancer and you don't go to the hospital for 6 months, guess what? Now it's stage 4 or stage 5 cancer. You're going to die. So COVID lockdowns killed, Dan, probably 10 times more people than they saved. And of course, then you have Fauci saying, I didn't want the schools closed. Oh, yes, he did. He talked all the time about shutting down schools. The loss of income to our children and our grandchildren who were of school age, last year, in 2020, 21, probably trillions of dollars of lost income because they spent a year and a half not learning anything. You can't recover that. So I thought Fauci was outrageous. I thought he was unapologetic.
Yeah.
He should have gone in hand and said, "Look, I made major mistakes. I want to apologize to the country." I wrote in the hotline the other day. I think he's going to go down in history, or should go down in history, as one of the top 10 villains in the history of the United States, right up there with the Rosenbergs, right up there with Benedict Arnold, and people like that. And yet, University of Illinois, I said this a few weeks ago on your show. Did you see? They gave him an award.
Oh, he got so many awards. He got a $1 million award from some group in Israel. I mean, he profited off of that, and he didn't have to go through the pain that we as parents had to go through. And I'll tell you real quick, one little tidbit. I think I've mentioned this before. The place where I get my mammograms, 7,000 plus women canceled their appointments because they shut down, and only 3,000 rescheduled. So,
ooh, that's so scary.
That's
so scary. That's an incredible statistic. And I mean, let me just say one other thing, that Fauci also lied again. Yeah. I don't remember. I don't remember whether we did anything with the Wuhan lab. You don't remember?
Obama gave them a $3.7 million grant back in 2015.
Exactly, and it's just ironic that Trump is convicted guilty, and this guy is acting like a national hero, and it is really important that people understand. I'm so glad you brought this up, Dan. It is so important. This guy is a fraud. He is a criminal, and he is a media hog. He loves the adulation. He loves it.
By the way, I mean, just as an aside, I know you're a graduate of U of I, but that's exactly who they would give an award to. I mean, why wouldn't a totalitarian institution give awards to totalitarians? That nobody should be surprised by that. I guess they just don't have an understanding of what colleges are.
When I was there, I was there from 1979 to 1983. It was a pretty, I wouldn't say conservative, but apolitical school. What the hell has happened in Champaign? Why have they allowed this to happen?
It's
the president's personally been horrible. There have been total left-wingers. They're totally into the climate change stuff. They're totally into the lockdown the economy. They shut down the University of Illinois during COVID.
During COVID, you couldn't. A lot of our listeners, their kids go to school there. You couldn't even take your garbage out, Stephen Moore.
Amazing.
You had to leave your bags, and if you walked down, you had to wear a mask. If not, you'd get a $200 fine. It was insane. And then they forced vaccinations on people.
But the good news is, Steve, your picture is still up at CAMS. So
the new CAMS.
You'll live forever in CAMS. Steve Moore, economist, Govzilla author. Thanks as always, Steve. Appreciate it.
Is that a help? Is that a wanted sign, or is it?
No, reverence.
You drink at CAMS, right, Stephen Moore?
Yeah, absolutely. Is it still there, by the way?
Yeah, they tore the old one down and they built a new improved CAMS a few years ago.
All right.
But your chief Alinowick has been retired because.
I say get rid of Fauci, bring back Alinowick. That's my line.
Okay, good. Thanks, Stephen Moore, and he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
The more you listen, the more you'll know. This is